Good morning, good morning. So just so you'll know, my other plans is I'm going to Athens to take my son to a Georgia game. So I'm pretty excited about that. And that'll be one of the wins that we get today. But what I am most excited about is the win that we may actually get on the Senate floor later today. That is... I am excited about it for so many reasons. I mean, I've got chill bumps on it. But when you think about one of the promises that the president made to put constitutionalists on the Supreme Court, it is a promise that is being fulfilled, and I could not be more excited about that. But I want to, yes, go ahead. I think it's important. But I am so proud of Judge Kavanaugh. Can you imagine what that poor man and his family have been through? It has been absolutely horrendous. And for the Democrats to go on the attack our way of life, our thinking, the presumption of innocence, and he has been up there and he has been fighting and he has stood strong. The president has stood beside him. The senators have stood beside him. And I could not be more excited about having Judge Kavanaugh as Justice Kavanaugh. That is going to be great for America. How many of you saw Susan Collins' speech yesterday? She shelled the corn, didn't she? I mean, she put it down. There are many times that I have a difference of opinion with Senator Collins, but I will tell you what we watched yesterday was a historic speech. She did as good a job, and since I have been in Washington, I have seen two speeches that I thought were transformative. That was one of them, and the other one is the day that Steve Scalise walked back onto the House floor and gave his remarks. But what we saw yesterday was a methodical, well-positioned speech that made the points of why Judge Kavanaugh should become Justice Kavanaugh. And I thought it was pretty remarkable. As I was listening to it, I thought to myself, I'm hearing something that will go down, in my opinion, over the next 50 years is one of the most important moments in the United States Senate. And I think she may have saved the integrity of the Senate with what she did. So I look back as I'm coming to the end of my first term in Congress, and I look back at where we've come in basically 2 years. We were struggling with an economy that was failing. Our military was literally falling apart. We were not keeping our promises to our veterans. And we were, quite candidly, we were a follower on the world stage and not a leader. And I think back to how I felt during those times. And I remember clearly during Obama's second inaugural address, sitting in our bedroom, and I remember looking at my wife going, when did we get to be the bad guys? When for 8 years, he looked down the barrel of a camera and told us that we were the problem with America. For 8 solid years. Raising a family, bought a home, running a small business. You know, we were putting a little bit of money away towards savings. We were living the American dream. And he had the gall to tell me every single day that I was a problem with America. And I think about where we are now with President Trump's leadership. Think about it. Our economy is absolutely on fire. It has been because we have been completely dedicated to fixing the regulatory environment, comprehensive tax reform that not only cut the rates, but made this the place to make investments in America. We have we're on the phase of rebuilding our military, and it is the president's commitment to that is unbelievable. It is his highest priority to keep this nation safe. When he talks about our veterans, and he has signed the legislation that fundamentally begins to change how the VA will operate over time, it is a visceral experience for him. There's a sense of dedication there and appreciation that is unparalleled. I'll think about what we're doing right now on the world stage. We've reasserted ourselves, and we're leading again. And that is a much better feeling than where we were just a few short years ago. And by the way, nobody thought that he could get the trade deals done. And look what's happening by God, he has negotiated them the way that he promised that he would, and we're starting to get back on track, and we will be a dominant economy in the world for the next generation. It's pretty remarkable. But every single bit of that is under attack. Every bit of it is. If you go out and you look across the country, and I always say this, if the rest of the country voted just the way we do here in the 3rd District of Georgia, we wouldn't have a single problem in the nation. The problem is that there are a lot of different groups, particularly those on the left coast, particularly those in the Northeast. But we also have a problem right here in Georgia, inside 285 in Atlanta, okay? That area, in some ways, looks an awful lot politically like San Francisco. Absolutely. And New York, okay? So what's gonna happen? If we aren't committed to going out and doing our part to support our ticket up and down, all of a sudden, Metro Atlanta is going to start to spread out into the rest of the state politically. And let me tell you what, the stakes are incredibly high right now. If Brian Kemp is elected governor, and Jeff Duncan lieutenant governor, and Richard Wood superintendent, and you go down the list, if we do that, we're going to keep this state going in the direction that we want it to go in. And you think about where we are right now. #1 state in the nation for doing business. Lowest per capita tax of any state in the country. We have the best infrastructure on the East Coast. And you know what? We are fundamentally changing what's happening in education. And we are now telling kids there are a lot of different pathways for you to be successful. And we have quit telling kids that if you don't go to college and get a 4-year degree, you're an abject failure. It is time that we continue to change that. So I want to thank you for your work and your support on doing that. But let me tell you what. I think about what it would be like if Stacey Abrams were our governor. Now, I'm not talking about just the normal, ooh, I don't want to do that. But I think about what it really would mean.
Socialism.
So, have you thought about this? Have you thought about who Stacey Abrams would name as her commissioner of the Department of Natural Resources? I mean, the reason I picked that one out, do you really want somebody from the Obama-Holder administration serving in her cabinet determining who gets a hunting and fishing license in the state of Georgia? That's the kind of thing that we've got to be mindful of. Think of all of the appointments. Think of all of the judges. Go down the list. And they're not going to be people from Georgia. They are going to be people out of the Obama-Holder administration. And do we really want that affecting the quality of our daily lives? So I travel out, and what I'm starting to see right now is I'm starting to see a little energy, starting to see a little fire as we go through the district and I travel around the state. But we got to go from a little fire to a raging wildfire. Every single day for the next 30 days, you've got to wake up. We all have to wake up every day with this in the forefront of our minds. We have to go out and we have to talk about this election with a passion and a sincerity about our future, but we also have to be realistic about what's coming up behind us. Meaning that there is somebody in our rearview mirror that wants to come in and turn this state into a completely different direction, and I am not going to let her turn this state into the next California, and neither should you. So every day for the next 35 days, okay? 34 days now. 31. God, it's been a long week. Thank you. Ask somebody to go vote. Early voting starts when you go to your coffee shop, you go to your prayer group, you go to church, whatever it is. Take somebody with you to go vote and tell the good story and the good news of what this state has done under Republican leadership. And ask yourself, why would we want to go in the opposite direction? Because that's exactly where we would go. Why would we do that? So we've got to be dedicated to it. We have to be dedicated at the federal level because we have got a lot of races that quite candidly are going to be very close. I look out on the federal landscape. I think the Senate this week, assuming that they finish the drill today, and I believe that they will, I think the Senate has saved itself and will maintain a majority, slim majority in the United States Senate. The House of Representatives is going to be an absolute campaign war down to the very last day. And I cannot tell you right now, based on what I'm seeing, that that we are, number one, we will not have an overwhelming majority in the House. But I think either party is going to wind up with a 4 or 5 seat majority. And there is a chance that if we don't continue to fight and push hard, that we could lose some of those seats and we could be in the minority, and you're going to have Nancy Pelosi as your speaker. Okay? Now, Nancy Pelosi as your speaker is one thing. Maxine Waters as the chairman of Financial Services is a complete other. Okay? I say all of this, and I hope that you have just a little bit of fear in you about what lays in front of us, because fear is a little bit of a motivator. But I always want you to remember, as Republicans, we should be telling this nation about the greatness of it under conservative leadership. You know, sometimes we tell the world what we don't want. We have to do a great job of telling the world what we're about and what this country will look like with conservative leadership. So with that, I implore you, get out. I'm out. I'm working every single day on behalf of our ticket in the state of Georgia and other representatives around this country. We have to turn voters out at a high rate. The top of our ticket doesn't need to win in Georgia 3 by 65% of the vote. We need to win with 72% of the vote, because we got to make up for some of the stuff that's happening in Metro Atlanta. So it's not just enough to get yourself to the polls. It is about getting everyone you know to the polls to vote. It's important. It's our future.